Hello my dear viewers, and today we're going to be taking a look at a episode of Fan War that some fans of mine brought to my attention and we're going to be reviewing today. So let's take a look at what you guys dug up this time.
We've seen many opponents bring in all kinds of methods and tactics into battle.
But nothing beats out good old-fashioned strategy of punching your opponent until they expire.
Yang Zhao Long, the Goldilocks of bone breaking.
And Akande, the Doomfist.
I'm one fish mob.
And I'm Animation Rewind.
No, I am not okay! Nothing about this is okay!
Is it ready? Just a minute, Chef. We don't have a fucking minute. The audience are waiting. Gosh, I can digest and shit out of real shit faster than you can make that fucking shit. Here it is, Chef. The fuck is that? It's shit. Fucking right, it's shit! Pick it up! That's the shittiest shit I ever saw! And you, do you have your shit together? Can you handle that shit?
How's this, Chef?
Fucking hell! Your shit! Your very existence is shit! You're a useless sack of worthless fucking shit! Leave the jacket and get out of my kitchen! Get the fuck out, you fucking fuck! Sorry, folks. It won't happen again. Alright, let's try that again. That is a big pile of shit.
Predictable. Why am I not surprised?
You're not ready.
Fight!
Nice hit. Hold on. What? Haha! Here's an extra. One more. Yeah! Take a nap. Back off! You're in trouble now. I'm pretty strong.
Needs improvement.
Rising! Burn! Gotcha now! Fly! Back off! You're in trouble now. Here's an extra! Yeah! Take a nap! Hold on!
Fatality.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Alright, let's just get this over with, and hopefully I can get out of this with only a minor headache and not a migraine. Okay, so Yang versus Doomfist. What can be said about it? It's not as bad as King Kong versus Godzilla, although that's really not saying much when you consider the quality of that fight and the quality of the last time I had to talk about Fan War. So, first things first, I guess you decided to not take my advice, Fan War, when I urged you to avoid Animation Rewind, because that dude is a cancer to the Versus community and is nothing but a fucking punchline. Seriously, nobody I know outside of his fan base takes him seriously because he's done so many shitty meme level death battles that he basically lost any credibility he once had as a Versus debater, especially when you consider that he's basically used by the Death Battle fan base to get the results they want when Death Battle fucks it up. So if your goal and aim is to be taken seriously in the Versus community, associating with him is not necessarily a good idea. However,
That one didn't age quite so well.
we temporarily interrupt your regularly scheduled program to bring you this note from future me. I want to say that in hindsight, I would say that this whole rant about Animation Rewind really didn't age the best in the grand scheme of things, and I have walked back some of my opinions on Animation Rewind, because while I still maintain that he's a joke and a punchline, and not anybody that anybody really takes seriously, to say that he was any worse than One Fish Mob or Fan War, whatever you prefer to call him, was not the best take, because recent revelations and dramas involving Animation Rewind made me realize that he is far more toxic than Animation Rewind could ever be, because Animation Rewind is just a joke that you can laugh at, whereas Fan War is somebody who originally originated from Kiwi Farms, in his own words, started out as a troll, in his own words, and I recently caught him defending a very messed up anime that revolves around a teenage girl that kidnaps and engages in a relationship with a child of 8 years old. I'm not joking. Fan War once made a 2-hour video defending the anime Happy Sugar Life. If you know that anime, then you know what I'm talking about. So, yeah, I just wanted to put that in here to show not only have my thoughts on certain things changed over the years, but in hindsight, Fan War was definitely the much worse between these two, and I apologize, Animation Rewind. I definitely respect you more than I respect Fan War. Now, back to your regularly scheduled programming. However, with that out of the way, I will start with the matchup. Now, it goes without saying this matchup is fucking stupid. In fact, this matchup is actually less than the last death battle I talked about, and that one I thought was fucking trash. But at least that one had a little bit more going for it. With this one, the whole logic is, oh, these two punch shit, so have them fight. Seriously, guys, Death Battle did the same fucking thing with Yang versus Tifa. It's two girls that punch shit. Brilliant idea. I mean, with this level of logic with your matchup ideas, what's next? How about Batman versus L? After all, they're both detectives. How about Superman versus Saitama? After all, they both punch shit. How about, I don't know, Optimus Prime versus XJ9? After all, they're both robots, so fuck it, have them fight. I know you once said, Fan War, that sometimes simplistic connections is all you need for two characters to fight each other. However, that's not always true. There are many, many ways in which that could backfire. For example, I don't think that you would argue that Doorman versus I don't know, Nightcrawler is a good matchup just because they both have teleportation powers. I doubt you would make that argument because Doorman would get fucking slaughtered. But with this matchup, all you have is two people that fight each other, and another main aspect to why that's not a good idea is because it heavily restricts what you can do with the fight, more so than the animation, which I'll get to in a minute. When all you have is two characters that can punch each other with very little variation, then there's not a whole lot you can do with that. Now, sure, I might hear someone might make the argument, well, Yang also has her shotgun gauntlets. Well, in the context of this fight, she barely uses them from what can be seen. She mostly just punches and kicks. Same with Doomfist, so it's just the same repetitive punching and kicking for about 2 minutes, and it just gets old really quickly, and it's not all that exciting or fun. Now, I'm not saying that hand-to-hand combat-based fights can't be fun, but when that's all you have, you got to do something to keep the fight interesting. Variety. As bad as Death vs. Grey was, at least Death Battle, even though they restricted themselves by having only 2 ice wielders fight each other, at the very least, they did their best to have some variety in the fight. As bad as that one was, I can at least say Death Battle made an attempt to have a variety so you could keep the fight interesting and hold the audience's attention. Think about it this way. Daniel Bryan in the WWE is often considered a bad wrestler because all he can do is kicks and submission moves. And when that's all you can do, it makes for a very boring wrestling match. The same can be said for Finn Balor. All he can do is kicks and stomps. That's all he can do. So when that's all you have, then these matches with these wrestlers get boring pretty quick. The same rules apply here with Doomfist and Yang. When all they can do is just punch and kick each other, well, the fight's gonna get old pretty quickly, which is also probably why the fight is also as short as it is. And again, that doesn't help much. The main attraction is always the fight, and when the fight fails, well, then you're pretty screwed at that point. And in regards to the animation, while the animation looks okay for sprite animation, it's not really saying a whole lot because, as I've said, the problems with 2D animation, and especially sprite animation, you're heavily restricted with what you can do. These things are made with pre-made sprite sheets, and the animator can only work with what's on the sprite sheet. So you already have some heavy restrictions in what you can do with the animation, and then Animation Rewind and Fan War further restrict themselves by saying, oh, these people can only punch and kick each other. Yeah, not a very good idea, guys. And while there are some things in this episode that I can give you some level of credit for the most part, there's not really all that much going for this one. The fight is already a big letdown, and the music is okay, but it's nothing special. While, again, going back to Death Battle, I hate to keep bringing them up, but while I didn't like the soundtrack they used in their latest Death Battle, at least I could say it sounded like something unique and original that they were trying to associate with that particular fight. At least I could give Death Battle that much. But with this one, it's just an okay soundtrack. I think you could have done better. Hell, Fan War, if you want, come to me. I can hook you up with some great soundtracks, because if there's one thing I know, it's music, especially in regards to epic music that sounds badass or what you would hear in a cool fight. But that's that. In regards to the research was actually much better than the last episode I reviewed, Jiren vs. Saitama, which no shit had no power scaling to speak of whatsoever, and all Fan War did was just go over the bare basics of these characters. It's like he just pulled up their Wikia pages and just said the most bare bones information without actually explaining anything. At least here, they managed to get the research right, and here's one thing I will say. There is one saving grace to this that I will give you guys over Death Battle. That is in regards to how you explained Yang's semblance. Now, as some of you may know if you've seen my Yang vs. Tifa review, Death Battle pulled a no limits fallacy and tried to say that Yang's semblance can keep making her more powerful with each hit she takes. Every time she takes damage, she can hit back with twice the power, which is bullshit because it's been explained that Yang's semblance can only do so as long as her durability is not overclocked. Once you overclock her durability, well, her semblance becomes useless, and I'll give you guys points for explaining that, because I remember when Death Battle didn't do that, it was extremely infuriating. However, knowing Death Battle, they were probably aware of the limits of Yang's semblance, but just purposefully lied about it because they needed Tifa to lose. However, I won't get any more into that. If you're interested in hearing more about Yang vs. Tifa, just check my review. But yeah, so I'll give you guys credit, the research was much better, and you guys were a little bit more straightforward than how Death Battle is, where they like to be just find all sorts of weird, annoying ways to explain a character's power, or use big numbers to confuse the people, when you can just boil it down to Yang dodged lightning, thus she is a lightning timer. Simple as that. Yang got smashed through a pillar. That was one of her greatest durability feats. Again, simple. You don't always have to break it down into big numbers. Calculations can sometimes be necessary, but they're not necessary when you can easily explain away certain feats by just going, oh, they dodged lightning, therefore lightning timer. However, while that's all well and good, and from what I can see, you guys seem to get the results right, although I will admit I don't know too much about Doomfist, so I can't really confirm if you guys got the outcome right in regards to Doomfist power. However, unless I see otherwise that Yang should have won, which, given that she comes from a fodder universe, I really highly doubt that. But I won't go into any debunkings unless I see otherwise. However, going back to the negatives, here's something that really frustrated me. The audio and voice acting, I should say the lack of voice acting, because this wasn't voice acting, they just grabbed clips from, I assumed, some video games or some animations from what I can tell. But here's one thing I don't get. The inconsistency in the audio is incredibly frustrating. For example, Yang you can hear just fine, and she's very loud and obnoxious. But in the case of Doomfist, you can't understand what he's saying. You can barely understand him. Like, did you not make sure to balance out the audio so you can hear them? Or do you just not know how to use audio enhancement? Fan War, and this isn't the first or last time you've had poor audio in your videos. One time I had to fix your audio for you in a previous episode. So you gotta get better at the audio enhancement, because it's incredibly frustrating when you have this inconsistency of one character, the audio is so low you can barely understand what he's saying, and the other one is just loud and obnoxious. It feels like someone playing with the volume on a stereo. And moreover, Was it really necessary to have Yang talk as much as she did? Seriously, she talks throughout the whole fight and it's fucking annoying. Was that really necessary? It doesn't add much to the banter at all because Doomfist is rarely ever responding to what she is saying. It's just Yang rambling on and on and on and on, and it drove me up the fucking wall. You could have cut down her dialogue heavily and the episode and fight would be a lot better. Now, sure, I get it, that's the point of Yang. You even said that her biggest weakness is her loud mouth and temper. I get that, but just because the character is notorious for being a loudmouth doesn't mean you have to make them a loudmouth that never shuts up in the context of your fight, because it just makes the fight aggravating. Or if you are going to have a character talk a lot, at the very least, can you have some banter back and forth between the characters? Because again, going back to Death Battle, at least Death Battle will actually have banter back and forth between the characters, and they'll try to make it seem as natural as possible to where it actually feels like these characters are interacting with each other rather than just a mindless animation. So the audio is incredibly frustrating, and I've already spoken about the subpar soundtrack, so audio isn't much better here. So the overall package of this is not very good. There's not a whole lot going for this fight. Terrible simplistic matchup, subpar music, awful audio, a fight that is heavily restricted and becomes repetitive really quickly. Even the final death is very anticlimactic. You couldn't even go through the trouble of making a gruesome kill or anything like that. No, you just launch Yang up into space and that's it. Again, Death Battle at the very least has interesting death animations. People get cut in half, beaten to death. Or at least when Death Battle did this, when Boo got shot into space by Kirby, at least he went into the sun and died. Or Thor fucking hit Raiden with his hammer, splitting him in half, and then throwing his bloody remains into the sun. At least it's a little bit more of an interesting death scene than just Yang gets punched into space and die. It just feels very underwhelming with an already repetitive, underwhelming fight. So, in regards to a final score, I'm going to have to give this a 2 out of 10. It's better than Godzilla vs. King Kong. However, again, that's really not saying much because Godzilla vs. King Kong was such an epic failure that Animation Rewind thought it would be a good idea to use composite, which is always a bad idea and is one of the big no-no rules in regards to versus debating. But here, at the very least, there was no composite bullshit. You guys seem to follow the rules. The research and results was a lot better. However, there's far more negative here than positives. So I'm going to have to give it a 2 out of 10. Sorry, Fan War, while you keep trying to convince me that you've improved, you're not improving by much. And I'm really not impressed with this. I told you I would take a look at one of your most recent episodes. Well, I took a look at your most recent episode, and I have to say I'm not impressed. And I gotta say, your little collaborations with Animation Rewind is doing nothing for you. You and Animation Rewind are certainly not a dream team of any kind. And as co-hosts, it just doesn't work. Rather, you co-host for him or he co-hosts for you. It's just a disaster each and every single time. At the very least, Wiz and Boomstick have some level of chemistry, as annoying as some of their jokes can be. So, yeah, what do you guys think of Yang versus Doomfist? Do you think it's an improvement and Fan War is getting better? Or do you think that it's barely better than Yang versus Tifa, or do you think it's just as bad, if not worse, than Yang versus Tifa? Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you guys around next time.
Back again. Shady's back.